Hey guys, welcome back. This is a video about how one thing leads to another, and as you can see from the rocks and boulders I'm showing on the front of the bucket here, that this was my first project, and this is what it all started with, trying to get some rocks out of my fields. Some of them were quite large. You can see this guy here. It was so heavy that I couldn't just pry it into the bucket. I had to use some alternative means, but I got her in. Got it in and secured, and we're going from my upper field up here down to by the creek. Is where I'm taking most of these rocks, and the whole reason I'm doing this is so that I can kind of clear the fields and mow them with the tractor and the rear mower versus weed eating 5 to 6 acres. So this is that one rock down here a little closer to the creek, and then as I come down from the house, I got to back down this hill. This one was chained in, so I didn't really need to, but when I got big loads, that's what I do. This is actually, I think, a different boulder that was actually even bigger, but these are some of the rocks that are in my field. And as the video says, one thing leads to another. So as I'm down there, seeing all these trees that are in my creek from snow blowover and stuff, so I have to switch gears and go grab the saw, back that old Rhino out of the mud up there on top by my LT, up by the mill, and we get this guy going. We start heading down the hill in the Rhino with the saw, and if you hear some funny noises as we're going that doesn't quite sound like a Rhino, it's my saw warming up in the background. So there's just me heading down some of the wood I need to mill up here eventually. We're kind of coming at the end of the winter here, so got a little bit of water running here, but you'll see in about half a dozen places where I need to add some culverts. Coming up on my wood yard here, where I keep all the firewood and splitters sitting here, and there's some man glitter right there. I had to finish cutting up some of those big chunks of oak. Here's one of the first spots for my need for culverts. Right now I just got to let it run down the hill here, across that other road that goes down to my house. And like I said, the whole reason that I'm clearing the rocks out of this field is so that I can actually end up with some meadows and stuff. So I'm coming up here on an example. 2 years ago, this was all this brush I'm driving through right now was what was up here. And so I cleared out all this brush, and you can see it's a nice meadow up there. That's what I'm hoping for in the end for most of it. Takes a lot of work, but we're getting there slowly but surely. So this is kind of what I'm hoping for eventually. Get some normal grasses growing. I got some star thistle I'm fighting, but this is what we're shooting for. And as we go through this meadow, you'll kind of see we go back into this area where it's all buckbrush and manzanita and stuff. And I'll stop up here again, kind of show you an example of how thick it was back where we just came through. If you look at this stuff on the left, it's nasty. It's a fire hazard. It's a lot of places for ticks, which isn't good for our dogs. And I'm still leaving a lot of habitat for the quail and for the turkeys and stuff. Here's another little rock right here. I got to eventually move somewhere. But now we're going to head back down the west end of the property. And as you can see, we're still a little bit wet from rain. And the whole theme of this video is the one thing leads to another here. I'll stop in a second and give you a little bit of a view down the valley there. It's not a real clear day, but it's a beautiful view down here. So coming down the hill, I think we hit another spot where it's another opportunity for a culvert here. Kind of stop and bounce a little bit. And as you see this little wood pile here, it's another one of those days where just one thing led to another. Tree snapped off from the snow, got in the middle of this, so I'm kind of going back a couple weeks here from this little trip. And I started cutting this tree up. Had a little problem with the saw, so I had to stop. Packed it in for that day. And then I came back a week or so later with the wife. That's me just cutting that tree up, and there's my wife. She's a super hard worker. And so we kind of cleared this out of the roadway, and I pushed all the brush down the hill further. Again, this is just to clear the road here, which is a couple weeks prior to what I'm actually shooting this video on. But it all ties into the one thing led to another, because if you look up on the left here, once we cleared the road, the wife decided she wanted to clear a little bit of the side hill. So one thing led to another, and Next thing you know, she's just going at it on the side hill, and I'm pushing more and more brush down the hill to burn. Excuse me. So now we're back at the same day as this rock project, and I'm coming down here to the bottom of the hill, and you can see this old burnout stump here. And guess what? That led to, you know, the cutting that I showed you from a few weeks ago led to this. So one thing always leads to another, and that's how it goes on the mountain ranches. Anyway, so let's head on back up here. We're going to cruise on up the hill, and we'll get back to that first one thing that led to another. Actually, we're going to stop and show you a little bit of a nice little area. I'm going to get a little sitting bench here, I think, and just kind of look at the creek eventually. But back to the first one thing that led to another with the rock project was getting the trees out of the creek. So I got the saw on the back of the Rhino, and it's pretty warmed up by now. We're coming up here, we're going to start chunking up those trees. There's another spot for culvert. This is some of the runoff from what I showed you up top. There's some more trees that need to be cut up for firewood. I think there's one or two in there that could be milled up. That one right there is big enough to be milled up. And again, we kind of made a full circle here, back down, coming in the area where I'm dumping the rocks, getting rid of those from the upper field, and we're going to go to cutting this tree up here. So, and I think I'm going to let it go to voice here in a second in the video, and then I'll come back to voiceover. Shut her off for a second. I think I'll do most of this video with just a voiceover, but include a little bit here. So what we got is this is our little creek sitting spot. So I need to pull all these trees that went down over. This one, you can see the tops broken off from snowstorm in the past. And so I just kind of pushed it over with the tractor this morning, but the others have all fallen over from the snowstorm. So I'm gonna move my chair, at least that one's already grown in. And we'll get this cleaned up so when maybe spring actually gets here, we can sit around our creek. All right, so we'll go back to voiceover here. So this is me starting the saw up, moving this chain out of the way so I don't hit the saw with the chain, or hit the chain with the saw. Anyways, love that man glitter. You see a couple of those shots there. It's just nice. This is my old saw, my 310. I got a brand new 462, which is phenomenal. I'll show you some other videos. But anyways, I'm cutting stuff up, and there's another standing tree there that the top was broken off of that I'm just going to knock down. Yep, get her out of the way, get the chair out of the way. And now that I got everything kind of knocked up to where we can drag it out, we'll re-secure that chain, get it ready for the tractor, and get back up the hill. Yeah, my shirt's a little ratty, but that's one of my favorites. Anyways, here I come with the tractor, coming on down the hill, and we're hooking some stuff up, and we get this guy up and out of the way. And I think the next one's the one that gave me some trouble. So I come back in here, and it's interesting because this is way steeper than it shows. And you can see here I tug and it didn't happen, so I back her up. And what was happening was there was a tree that was just pulling in against some of those big boulders, so I kind of just wrapped the chain up around the boulder and kind of used it to kind of roll up and over those rocks, and I was successful. Got her out of there. And just kind of rinse and repeat. Just keep dragging this stuff out of the creek and get all the big stuff out of here. For now, I'm just kind of pulling it back down on that road that I'd driven up. And I got a whole bunch of trees off the side there that I need to cut up for firewood. And there's a couple chunks in there that I'll throw in the mill, but most of it's going to be firewood. It's not real big. And I have no shortage of trees, so I'm not worried about not using stuff. Well, we got a lot of those trees out of here. And looking much better. Got a bunch of cleanup to do. But a lot of this is small. I might just come down with a Rhino and a saw. I'm going to pull these out. This is eventually going to be a nice little sitting spot. We love our creek. Year round.
Very nice, very nice. So we're gonna do a little something with this here. I'm gonna cut you off for a second. All right, look, see the chair. This is the view from in the chair. Very nice view. Very blessed to live where we live. A lot of years to find a place like this. A lot of years. Anyways, thanks for watching. And if you liked it, hit like, please. Subscribe if you want. And don't worry about the bell yet. I'm still working on getting consistent with these. But thanks for dropping by.